Hi, this is Sir Flo Thunderhammer.
And I'm King Cabbage Tidehammer.
And this is WAK. We got a couple of serious ones under our belt.
Slept with the king.
And you become the champion day one and walk out.
I'm surprised your beards didn't get Velcroed together.
Explain that. You have to explain.
I haven't a clue.
That's why.
Some sort of LARP thing. I survived that. I'm not going to murder you.
No, this is crime.
It's a good old-fashioned barn raising.
No, we can't. No, this is
podcast
crime. Poison. We can't do this. God, we don't even have an intro. I don't know. Are you guys ready?
I like that you just now wrote Jeff Lexi interview on the doing.
I just now made the Trello card. Yes, I have nothing in the tank here.
Okay, hold on. I'll do let me pull up, what's one of the interviews that...
I mean, we can talk about
Obonions,
awards like we had talked about before.
That I think
this is like how I would, if I was quote-unquote in charge, how I would see Hammer Time or something like this is like a roundtable discussion aspect. So they did say time waster in the production aspect of it.
Right.
Also like to some degree, like an open mic kind of thing or whatever.
Right. Well, Jay has said we can't call it a round table because he's a coward.
Yeah, no, he said... So
it's
this
called
was Jay's...
SLUFF because you can take the episode or not. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, he's like,
right.
If whack is the sound that a good shot makes, then this should be slough or shrug or something. So because you can take it or leave it.
Grazes. This is the grazing episode.
Draw cut the episode. No, in fact, it's dumb. I don't like it.
Misstab.
All right, do the thing.
Yeah, I'll do our roll in whenever you're ready.
You guys ready?
Yep.
Fuck it, let's do it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to WACT, where we discuss topics important to the Kingdom of Winter's Edge, interview the AmpGuard community at large, and talk with interesting people from around the foam fighting world. Today, we're doing kind of a special episode. Well, do we have a name for this one? Is this...
Listen, we got to go with SLUFF because that's what Jay called it. This is kind of a fun-sized episode. You can listen to it or not. It won't make a big difference. We're kind of just flying off the cuff here. We've got Teflon with us. He is currently our regent and also a member of our beltline. So this could also be Hammer Time. We'll let the viewers pick. I don't really care.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, cool. We're gonna argue. We're gonna make jokes. We're gonna say some cusses. This is less child friendly than any of our previous episodes, so keep that in mind. They all have the explicit tag, but some of them are more family friendly than others. With that in mind, Teflon, introduce yourself.
Hey everybody, it's Teflon Frosthammer.
So I'm going to start out with the first question for all of us here. For you, Teflon, what have we been doing wrong with battle games? I mean, local level.
I so thought you were going to say, what have we been doing wrong with the podcast? And I was like, please tell me everything we've been doing wrong with the podcast. Fix this.
That's a long list. No, what have we been doing wrong with battle games? Like local level, and I don't just mean Radiant Valley, and then at Kingdom level too. What and what can we do to fix those things?
Some of it is, in a way, like a nonchalant attitude at the park for actual participation, not really in battle game design or anything like that too. Even I do it at the park that I don't take it near as seriously, and I think that's actually a downfall to our newer players to some degree. Like, going on it and being, I'm Billy Badass and I have this amazing spell list is not necessarily great for new people, but introducing aspects of that spell list instead of the whole thing, I think is better. Like at our local park, we don't have a lot of people who play any kind of magic user other than maybe me and Boop. And now Lucas some degree with Bard more recently, but well, recently as much as COVID will allow.
Right.
But it doesn't allow for the optics or audio of magic users being on the battlefield. In a design aspect, kind of the throwaway, let's go get Ding the Bell or Capture the Flag or something like that. While good in between games, just a lack of creativity in the general sense for a battle game on a local level because it's just a local game, so who cares, right?
Well, if I may... So lack of creativity. Is there a problem with having a simple objective for the battle game? Like we used to play one called Neutral Archer, where it was just an archer in the middle, and there may be other things going on, like maybe you're having to put your flag in the circle, or maybe you're having to pick up a point. But the Neutral Archer can be captured and then becomes part of your team. And is something like that too simplistic for a good battle game? Does it need to be more overarching than that?
How much of it too? How much of the battle game, because you say we don't take it seriously enough, how much of the battle game should be role play centric? Because I feel like a lot of
That's a
us,
good question.
me specifically, we saw the Darkon documentary. Thanks for the recommendation. And like that is the opposite of what I want to be, and I think maybe that's wrong.
So the RP thing, the problem with AmpGuard is the rule set alone doesn't really do justice for an RP system, because there's no real consequence for death. We've even, in the newest edition of 8th edition, made it so we don't have lives anymore on a general sense. So that makes it to where there's no real consequence to dying unless it's based on the scenario. But as far as the RP thing goes, as long as your game's ahead of time, looking into like a quest or something that is more brought up in front and acceptable, then you're going to have more success with it, I feel like. I don't remember what the other part of the question was.
I'm sorry, I'm so distracted because for the people listening and who can't see what's happening, your wife is in the room and she just pulled out my journal and went through like every page of it.
Yeah, I don't know what she's doing.
It's
kind of
so
really
deeply
distracting me, too.
I'm like, oh, what's in my diary that I can't have people read? I'm scared to death right now. I made those pants. It's mostly just patterns that I sketched out and then tried to sew.
Is there anything in there worth sharing?
Is there some hot goss in there? I don't think there is.
I think she's writing down questions or potential things like that for you guys.
Okay, it's so like she's trying to be very furtive about it, but I'll be honest, I haven't heard anything you've said at all for the past 6 minutes.
Oh man, I barely have heard it myself because I'm really distracted with it as well.
Okay, where did we leave off? Flo, you were listening.
This is what I deal with, everyone. This is
battle games, how to make them better. Is roleplay important?
Oh, right. The other part of the
Darkon.
question.
Right.
So the other part of the question was, is simple objectives good for the battle games? And yes, the simple objectives on a local level are great, and even on a kingdom level are great. The things that add to the creativity is like the boundaries or the terrain effects or things like that, so that it's a little more engaging. Like recently I've made a whole bunch of new walls and things, which even the first time I made walls, I only made 2. They were roughly 6 foot tall by 8 foot wide, right? And these 2 walls being just sort of kind of in the middle of the battleground changed the aspect of the battle game overall. And it was 2 simple walls. That's it. But everyone congregated around them.
Right. I remember this, and I remember like maybe not being more invested in the battle game because like if there's an objective, I'm always invested, but specifically wanting to play with those walls.
Right. It's the added flavor that anything you bring into it, this could be walls, this could be items. Like a while ago, Lexi made these totems that I don't think we ever actually got to play with them, but they were designed to be something similar to the Shrine of the Silver Monkey, where you had 3 of them and you had to get them all on your team and then assemble them.
And then for some reason, it was really hard to put together.
I'm sure it would have been, to be honest. It was made out of spray foam, so who knows what would have happened.
So, and this doesn't extend to just the people at your park that are normally organizing things either. There's some really simple props that you can make. I remember that Gillen a long time ago made some flags for us, and it was really just a stick of PVC, Schedule 80 PVC, with pipe insulation around it, like you would be, padding the bottom part of a spear or something like that with, right? But it was just pipe insulation all the way up. There's nothing else to it, and a pommel on each end, essentially, right? And to that he stuck 2 pieces of fabric, kind of long pieces of fabric, to create the flag part. So that's not expensive to do. It's not a lot of time investment, but something like that creates a really cool thing that your park can then use.
Yeah, the other thing with it, I think, this is more of a me design aspect, I think, is that I have flags that I've made as well, but they're made out of the $1.50, whatever things at Tractor Supply. That's the fiberglass.
the fence posts.
Yeah, electric fence posts. and they have just like a pennant style flag on them, and there's different colors. So if you get your park used to certain aspects, like boundaries are marked by cones and rope, red flags are spawn points, blue flags are bases, or things like that, then you can make games and then build upon the base simple objective, and then have these indicators that everyone all of a sudden knows. So your simple thing can turn into a much more complex thing to someone who's coming in new.
Yeah, I remember because I think it was Kazan years ago made, for a quest that he was running, just took a piece of PVC that was 4 feet tall and stuck a T-piece on top and then ran rope in between all of them just to raise up the boundary. And that made a huge difference to how fun that game was.
The curlicue holders for the rope that we've been using for tournaments and stuff recently,
Yeah,
those are another good thing because you can add a level of 3 dimensions to the battlefield. And I think that's really important for engaging.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a Wednesday night role play sort of thing too. But as I've gotten older, I don't work as well with just keeping it all in my head. Right, it helps to have some kind of visual cue with it. And amp guards are the same thing. The more visual aspect you can add to it, the better it's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and things need to be kind of clear and kind of concise as to what they are and maybe how they can be used. I actually wanted to. So how seriously are we taking this episode? If we want to get into like hard hitting questions for Teflon, we can. I was going to ask about.
I'm going to say yeah, because he doesn't get a vote.
No vote.
No, I just you're
Regent
kind of
Teflon.
our Jamie, I guess. We send you episodes and have you listen to them before they come out, and you get to proof everything. So you've listened to most of the episodes, right?
I've listened to all of them actually.
God in heaven, I haven't even listened to all of them. We edit them, so like by the time it comes out, I've heard it in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
So who's your favorite guest so far? I mean, we've had 6, 7.
You can say yourself.
No, it's definitely not me. I think for different reasons, I really liked Bunch's episode, actually. It took a little more serious route, which is not necessarily bad. It just was, Mm-hmm. And then I really liked Obonions. I really liked his insight because it's totally different from most people's insight that we would get anywhere around Winter's Edge.
Yeah, internally, Obonions' episode was, I think, mine and Flo's favorite. Like, after we shot that episode, we were both like, yes, that's the one. And, like, the Bunch one, and this is no offense to Bunch, we shot that episode, and after we finished, we were all kind of like, was that a good episode? And it's not because it wasn't. Like, that's one of the ones I probably spent the most time listening to. But it was because it went so serious. Bunch is usually a pretty jovial dude, mm-hmm. and he's a pretty, like, happy-go-lucky kind of guy. So when he was serious the whole time, I was like, shit, that's not what I expected. Like,
yeah.
So, and most people have said the Bunch one was one of their favorites.
Yeah.
Looking at it from an analytics side, I think it's a crime because the Obonion episode is our least listened to episode.
Do you think that it's because he's outside of Kingdom and a lot of our listeners have been inside of Kingdom?
I think that's part of it, but honest to God, like if somebody is listening and figuring out like, which one should I listen to? I don't know some of these guys. Listen to the Obonion one. It is, honest to God, still one of my favorite interviews we've done. That guy is awesome.
Yeah, he told a whole story about mushrooms, cops,
yeah.
And
the cops part is really funny.
I could see something like that happening at Dragon's Hollow because when we went up there for that big day event, the cops were literally posted on the hill watching them.
Yeah.
We were like, should we get?
I mean,
close
we've
right
had
now?
a couple things at RV back whenever it was in Oak Ridge too, where the cops would come by and in almost to a T how he described it, where if they're new, then they actually parked and then they got out, but if they weren't new, they kind of slanted in, kind of watched for a minute and then left, and like that legit happened at RV a few times. We didn't have the whole like confrontation kind of issue that happened, but
that was engineered by Obonion. Like they
right,
would, they would fuck with each other. So no, that's like the Bunch episode I thought was really good. Like as far as episodes that I think people will like, Bunch is by far and again I talk to the guy all the time, but like that was one of the ones that we listened to and went, I don't know about that one. And then the Obonion one was the one we were sure as hell about, and it didn't get a whole lot of traffic. So I just didn't know if you had anything like that. I know after speaking of the bunch episode, because you were
Yeah, I was actually there for that
yeah,
one.
you actually were on that. That was your debut.
Yeah.
I know afterwards we had a conversation about awards.
Sure.
And I think we all have a little bit different opinion on awards. I think you and I were kind of aligned.
I think
We
we're
disagreed on a
close,
few things.
but we're not quite exact the same.
How did that discussion come about? I'm trying to remember what
Honestly,
brought that around.
I don't remember because usually something award happens and then I get on my soapbox about this is how I look at awards.
Yeah.
And that it's, 1 through 2 are Shire. So
Right.
how many people are in a Shire, right? It's below 15.
Yeah.
So if you're doing basically anything, here you go, first and second, no problem, right? And then, was it 15 is the minimum for barony, right?
Correct.
So if you're affecting 15 people, you're doing work at a baronial level, which means you can get awards up to, was it 5th, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at it in general. That would be even for like tournament wins and stuff like that for me too, because if you have a tournament at a barony and someone wins, I really think that they deserve, their next order as long as it's under 5, or 5 or under rather.
Yeah.
Right. I know, we're kind of in agreement in that, first and second level awards, like talking about Garbers, because that's the easiest one.
Sure.
Like, if you cut a hole in a sheet and threw it over your damn self, like that's one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like-
You made, like the very, very first award for everything is you made an effort.
Yeah.
Right? You made an effort that is definitely not great, more than likely. And if it is great, cool if you continue to do it and it was a 10th level, masterpiece and you continue to produce the same quality. I don't have a problem with you making 10 things that are that way and get there.
Yeah, it's the conversation somehow revolved around crat positions.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so that is specifically where I think we all kind of had a difference in opinion, and this is a good topic to put in the show because people care.
Yeah.
I don't want to misrepresent Bunch here, but I believe, disclaimer, I believe the opinion that he took was that there, and I can fuck with this. The opinion that he took was that some crat positions require less work than others and shouldn't give the same level of awards. And so he used the example that gate crat takes less work than a feast crat, which I absolutely agree with. I'm not going to say. But where we disagreed was that, the person doing that job deserves less of an award. And I know there was some discussion around that. Was that anything that you remember? Because I remember this was one of those things we talked about and said that should be on the podcast.
So this is one of the things that I think that I separate from many people on is that I believe that quantity of work is almost, if not as important as quality of work. So if someone's done gate for 9 years in a row, why are they not, getting higher level rewards? That person is literally the person you guys look and go to every single gate for 9 years, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like someone like that should probably be considered for higher level reward.
Well,
Yeah.
and if I can say this too, it's not that is being Feast Acrat more difficult than being Gate Crat?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. Nobody's going to argue that.
Nobody's arguing that. But having someone that has done both somewhat recently, and by that I mean, past couple of years sort of thing, which one of those positions carries more responsibility with it?
That's a tough question in a way, because
if I lose money,
has money and stuff, right?
So we're not talking about someone who picks up a gate shift, to be very clear. We are talking about the person that is over all of gate, organizing everyone that's going to be taking any of the shifts and making sure that the money's straight and doing countouts. And if it's being done correctly, you have a tally sheet that all of this stuff is being kept track on. And if that doesn't line up at the end of the event, then your ass is grass. I mean, you're in it.
It should be in some ways, but
I don't know what would happen.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know what would happen in a position like that, right? So it's a tough. It's an easy thing to do so long as everyone is doing what they need to do. But anyone who has ever had to work gate,
I'm not sure we had a completely successful gate in the last 4 years.
Yeah, I don't know that we have either. And
it's-
this is no offense to anyone who has been over Gate or who has helped out with Gate or anything like
No,
that.
it's just we've never sat down and truly made the process, a true process.
Yes.
It's always been something slightly different one way or the other. Either it's, we kind of got it right whenever it was all cash, but then we started putting the Square store in, and that's
some
made
people could
things
prepay,
different.
yeah, it was-
prepaying and everything else like that. Like, it's a good thing for event planning, but if you're not a good enough, I hate to put it that way, but if you're not a good enough gatecrat, then it's hard to keep up with. But it may not be that you're a good, or so much a bad gatecrat as the people you got stuck with or signed up with or whatever didn't follow your rules or something, and that's always going to be a problem because you're not going to be there the entire time.
There's more that's out of your control. Like
Yeah.
as a feast crat, it seems
You're
like
there or should be there.
right. If the
95%
ovens don't
of the team,
work,
right?
that's out of your control, and yeah, that can suck. Right. If there's equipment that's broken, that's what's out of your control. But you're still overseeing the entire thing. If you're
Right.
gate crat, presumably you're not there 100% of the time, so you are putting it in someone else's hands, which can be scary.
It not just scary, but with Feast, if you do poorly, everybody sees it.
Absolutely.
Everybody sees that the dinner's late or it's not cooked well or something else has happened, right? You ran out of OJ at breakfast time. If you do gate crat excellently, nobody sees it.
No one should know, basically. That's
Yeah.
that's the really cool and bad thing about that one, right?
Well, okay, so having heard this now, I actually maybe changed my mind. So my original stance with Bunch was that a crap position is a crap position, and if someone does it and it's necessary to make the event run, then you give them the damn award. We don't get to quantify what's easier and what's not, because even to a different extent, some people may have a harsher time in a kitchen because they have sensory overload things. So gate crack can be easier because you're dealing with less things and less people at once.
Sure.
So we don't get to make the distinction between what is and isn't more work. But now I'm kind of wondering if maybe I'm wrong, right? Like you're sitting here saying, there is, if you do it perfectly as gate crat, nobody notices. Right. Whereas if you do something even slightly wrong as feast crat, everyone notices. So maybe I'm wrong. Is that one of those things where gate crat should be someone's introductory crat position? I'm going to take Bunch's argument for him now because I kind of see where he's coming from.
So to kind of, I guess, summarize Bunch's part of it also is like when you come into higher awards, that if someone's gaining those awards quickly, it can sometimes reflect poorly on them to the COK or something like that, which, if you're talking high level awards, at some point you're basically looking at masterhood or belts or something, right?
Right.
So
Right.
I don't know if it's necessarily because with the award standardization, we should be having something similar. But I've always had the kind of outlook of like a martial arts belt where everyone's journey is a little bit different and no one's ever completely comparable, even in the most quantifiable position at sword belt, because if people aren't the exact same people aren't there over and over again, your line is totally different.
Yeah.
Right?
But
So-
I'm of the same mind that you were, and I don't know how many times we end up bringing up Sarah on this podcast, tie-dye on this podcast, but how many times when we were at events and there was discussion on awards for people that helped out at the events, did we have to listen to, well, all she did was work in the kitchen. Not doing a meal or anything like that.
Yeah, man, me
All
and
she
Sarah
did was-
washed I don't know how many dishes in the very early times of Winter Edge.
Yeah, all
events.
she did was wash dishes. All she did was take gate shifts. All she did was this or that or the other. I'm saying that there has to be a line somewhere where the quantity of work that is being done matters.
Well, I mean, I think it was Napoleon that said quantity has a quality all its own. And if they're doing a lot of it, I mean, these are, no matter how you cut it, these are essential positions that make the event fucking run. We can argue about whether or not they're harder, but if somebody doesn't do gate, your event won't happen.
Well, I mean, you as an autocrat, you would have to take over that responsibility,
Right.
which is the reason why the autocrats have the highest end of that, right? So ultimately, it could be a responsibility outlook where things fall, you know. But again, just specifically for Gatecrat, like that's a huge responsibility for the money for the kingdom and stuff. So maybe we're looking at Gatecrat not quite in the right light anyway.
Well,
That's
maybe
where I
we're
was
too
at.
focused on gate crat, though. Are there other crat? Is it like cleanup crat? Is that one of those that we can say is a lesser crat award? Because I don't think so.
No, I don't think it's
Like,
necessarily a lesser crat.
is there a crat that is lesser though?
I don't
lesser
think so.
overall. No, I don't think so. But the problem comes like how much work is required to these standardized awards, right? And that's going to, and the problem lies is like, you know, me and Lucas may look completely different on it. Maybe I'm more harsh than Lucas is, or something like that for deciding what level it is. And I use him just simply because he's here, but like every other monarch may have a bar that's totally different. And then trying to set a bar for someone else, I feel is selfish in a way as well, because that takes away from a monarch's ability to award things, you know,
Right.
as voted and given to. Right?
Yeah, once you remove discretion entirely from the picture, what's the point in having a monarch at all?
Right.
Yeah, you can create too many policies and procedures for something, right?
Yeah,
There's a reason
absolutely.
that we like to. What you want is you want something in a similar ballpark.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of go back to martial arts, because I had some background in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I can see and look at a competition blue belt and say this guy's really good, and then I can see a hobbyist blue belt where he may not win as many matches, but he definitely has the knowledge and some of the fundamentals that the competition guy does. He just doesn't do them quite as well,
Right.
You know, so that's why I see, you know, everyone's journey is different.
Well,
yeah.
and everything in Amtgard is like that too. I mean, to use fighting as an example, you know, you have situations where two people might have their fifth, and one of them has been in the game for a long time and is technically superior in every way to this other person who just now got their fifth order. Doesn't mean that they don't both deserve the fifth. Doesn't mean that first example doesn't deserve higher than they're at right now. But currently, they are both at 5, and there can be a disparage on
Right.
Yeah.
And again, like with awards, it gets into the sticky situation of like the award standardization. What the problem is for me, like
I
it's
don't think you can standardize awards.
No,
I
I don't. I really don't think you can in a generic overall the game. Like Rising Winds has, or I think it's Rising Winds has Keep, or whoever kingdom runs Keep, right?
Yeah.
And they, from my understanding, to work towards or get that flame belt, you have to do stuff inside that big event. Winter's Edge doesn't have that. So to me, award standardization is things that should be pretty close or similar, but inside the kingdom. It's almost like a quote unquote states' rights aspect, you know? Like,
well, Amtgard is very much set up that
Right.
way, so that's fine. Well, okay, so meet me halfway here then, because as a monarch, I have to sort of thread this needle, right? And future monarchs will have to do so as well. If I am an autocrat and I'm taking bids for an event, and, you know, I'm saying, we'll just keep using Gatecrat. Sorry to anyone who's ever ran Gate before. We are genuinely not insulting you. It specifically came up, so I'm going to keep using it. So I'm autocrat for an event, and I'm entertaining bids for Gatecrat. I have 5 people in front of me. 2 of those people, I know I understand what I just said. Okay, please let me dream.
Go on.
My dreams as monarch are so small right now. I will take anything. Okay, so I have 5 bids in front of me, but 3 of those people are on their 8th rows, and 2 of those people or one of those people are on their 6th rows, and one guy is on his 4th rows. Should I, as the monarch, promote the guy with his 4th rows to do the thing?
I don't know if that's. I don't know if just. I know that your example isn't just looking at their awards as to say who to promote. It's just one of the aspects of it. But
Right. Because there's probably more experience. The guy with 8 roses has probably done Gate a few times, right? So,
yeah, and this touches on something that I've said for a very long time to a lot of people, but you have to kind of train up the next generation. So, I mean, where would I go with that? I would say, as you just now said, there's probably people with a lot more experience that can do it there, but you have this person who, and we're also using this theoretical that this person that only has 4 is newer. It could be that they've been in the game for a long time.
right, but I'm a monarch and I like giving awards. It's fun. It's the best part of being a monarch right now. So,
Sure.
I want to give someone an award. It would be most feasible for me to give the 4 roses dude his
A
award.
5th
So,
for doing the thing, yeah.
And people wouldn't say, "Oh, well, he got his 9th rose off of doing Gate. What the hell?" You know. So, is there some credence to that, or should I just take the best person for the job regardless?
man, that's rough. Like it really is, because overall, like I would want to put the guy who's got 4th in it, like personally.
That's
right?
kind of where,
And so that's again where you get this kind of tiered system of what is a good spot for awards to come from, right?
But aren't you saying by doing that, though we said a moment ago there's not entry-level positions, but aren't we kind of defining into existence entry-level positions?
To some
then?
degree, yes. And that is in and of itself a problem. But there's also the aspect in that at kingdom level, it's kingdom level no matter what.
Right.
So if that's the aspect you take, then Gatecrat and some of those other crats like Metacrat and stuff like that, maybe you should be looking at higher level rewards for them.
Metacrat's an interesting one.
Oh, yeah.
Metacrat, I genuinely think you should take the best guy for the job. Holy
Yeah.
shit.
Hey,
Exactly.
Oz, how you doing?
Yeah.
Oz, buddy.
And
Oz, Mama K,
Mama
both of
K's
you.
done it
Yeah.
quite a bit, yeah. And so this is another really interesting one, and I don't know if this has or has not happened, but has Oz or Mama? I know that they've done it at multiple events. Has Oz or Mama K even ever been mentioned in an awards recommendation to get an award? Don't answer that, Monarch.
Oh, I was about to.
I'm asking theoretically, right? I'm asking theoretically. This is another one of those. Are all positions created equally?
Right. And I don't know. This is where it gets what? Where it gets a little hairy with it, right? Because it's the aspect of, like you were saying, entry level position versus equal things for the crats, and it's. I really think that like Gatecrat specifically can be done by someone who has already shown like trust with money or whatever, right? But it has a lower award and then can still stand to gain awards from it.
Right.
It's going to be such a harder sell to sell someone who's going to get their 10th for doing some kind of Gatecrat job, even if they've done it 4 years in a row on all of them.
Right.
Yeah.
All
see,
of your events.
If this is something that's been are we doing a thing here?
We're
If
definitely
this
doing
is
the hands on the head thing.
Yeah.
if this is something where they have been working a lot of positions and Gatecrat happens to be the last one that they do, I don't have a problem handing them that 10th. And I'm kind of the mind that if I can say, hey, this person has been doing this and doing this and doing this, and they worked Gate at our last event too, they've always done a good job, and I'm going to give them their 10th. I'm kind of the mind to tell anybody who has a problem with it to fuck off. I mean,
that's the aspect I take, to be honest.
yeah. The now, yeah, you're in rocky territory there because I'm going to have a different standard than probably everybody sitting in this room, and the next monarch is going to have a different standard than me, and whatever else. But there has to be I said this a moment ago, I'll say it again. There has to be a point where there are enough dominoes in a row that you can finally knock them down and see the pattern. Right.
Well, to come back to your original question, if you guys want to play the inside baseball for a second, Oz did serve as Metacrat at Symposium, and he was awarded. And so to put this in perspective, Oz had to deal with several medical issues of different degrees of seriousness. I don't know every one of them, but there were at least 3 incidents I know of where he had to get involved and help somebody.
I got sand thrown in my eyes.
Yeah, well, that's your fault.
Lexi did it.
So Oz got an Order of the Caduceus.
That's from me, by the way, so
Yeah.
we can talk about this completely.
Yeah, so that's not an award. That's nothing.
So, right. So I think this was more of a mistake on me than
Okay.
anything else. So I wanted to thank
I need to
Oz.
print a redaction before we move on. I'm being motioned at violently that it was Z.
yeah. No, so here's the thing. That's since been corrected. Oz should now have his 8th rose.
Right. So whenever
But-
I awarded it, I didn't. The last award that I saw, I think, was for his involvement with the co-autocrat event, and that was a lot longer ago than I had realized. And he had been in the Metacrat position for a lot longer than I had remembered.
Yeah, he has some experience as like an EMT or something.
Yeah,
he has,
he has some sort of minor medical license or medical license.
he's
of
got
some
the
sort,
Band-Aids. I don't know what he
Right,
does.
yeah. And so what I wanted to do was thank him because what he was doing. So I used a non-traditional award to do so because I didn't realize how long and how far away all the other Metacrat positions were.
Okay. Okay, because
So
the
that's
way
my bad, Oz, if you hear this.
I'm not what it looked like to me was that he was given an order of the caduceus in lieu of an eighth order, and I was like, who would do that to a
No,
Metacrat?
no.
So
That's not at all
that
what it
makes
was.
more
Yeah.
sense. Okay, it was a good episode. We're clearing up old beef. So I wanted to ask Flo. You mentioned something where, or maybe it was Teflon. Someone mentioned something about how the COK will look at these positions differently.
Or potentially, anyway.
Yeah, right. Flo, you are the GM COK
I am.
of Winter's Edge. Didn't see that coming, did you?
Got him.
What does and I don't know how much you can reveal or how much of it is sort of not in a process that can be, talked about, but what do you look at when you're looking at a potential candidate for knighting? What is it that you're looking at? What are you trying to get out of them? I know you talk to the candidate some. What is that process like?
So it's not about revealing or not revealing. I'm pretty much everybody on the Knights Circle is fine discussing whatever's going on. We won't discuss the way that people voted.
Yeah,
or
you
something
guys
like
have
that.
regular talks where people are invited to come at certain events. So this is not.
Yeah, we do. So the idea of those talks is that anyone that is Eighth Order and above, we specifically want to start to get to know because you're getting really close. Anyone's welcome to come. Anyone's welcome to ask questions, but we specifically would like to talk to some of the people that are higher up and closer to knighthood. But so what do we look at? This is going to be one of those things where my answer is not going to be satisfactory for a lot of people that are listening to this. And it's because there is not a unified answer for it. It's not like the Knight Circle says, okay, this is what we're looking at. Different people look at different things. I will say that if this is a situation where you're going for your crown, then they'll look at what positions have you held. Have you gotten any titles or awards for leadership positions or something like that? If you're going for your serpent belt, then they'll look at what have you been entering? What are your orders at? You've got your 10th in masterhood now. Some people may say, well, do you have anything in any of the other arts and science categories? Like, are your owls at 6 or 7 in addition to your garber in this example being masterhood or something like that?
Right.
And some people will say, I don't care what your owls are. You've gotten your master garber. That's good enough for me.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of personal idea of where someone should be.
Mm-hmm.
It is why everyone on the Knights Circle has their own vote, and the result of that vote, whatever it is what's taken to the monarch with a, hey, this person passed the vote, or no, this person didn't pass the vote. That's how that's kind of a beginning to end how it goes. So it's not a satisfactory answer because it's not as clean as being able to say, well, there's this process that's laid out for how everything is looked at.
Right. We're not purely an objective-based game, so that's kind of the issue too.
That's right. And you run into even more problems because you may have a knight in... We were talking about Oz, so I'm going to pick Everliving Woods here, right? You may have a knight in Everliving Woods who is being asked to review Podrick in Who Cares a Lot, Shire, who is a great guy and has done a lot of good things and is now being put up for his knighthood. And this knight has never heard of Podrick from Who Cares a Lot and doesn't know anything about them, but they're still being asked to vote on this particular person. And even that is handled in different ways. Some knights will... Is it still called recuse themselves from the vote?
Abstain.
Abstain. Just abstain. Yeah. So we'll just abstain and say, hey, I don't know this person well enough. And
I have something on that. Remind me when you're done with this.
Yeah, sure. And some knights will reach out to the person and try to get to know them a little bit. But in situation, we don't know everybody, right? This is one of the reasons why we'd like to get to know people when we're at events, because me contacting you on Facebook and just asking some questions isn't really going to give me a good understanding of your character. Not everyone interviews very well. Not everyone answers questions posed in that format very well, but that doesn't mean that you aren't a good garber in this example, right? Or someone that's good at service to the game or something like that.
Well, so it's a martial art, and I don't do them. So maybe it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Jeff will correct me if I'm wrong. But there is a martial art where when you get to a black belt, and keep in mind in this one there are positions higher than black belt, but black belt is kind of if you are a hobbyist, black belt is as high as you get.
Sure.
And black belt is where you are considered capable of teaching newer players. That was Lexi doing a hiccup. She's also in the room with us. But so when you get to that black belt, you are capable of teaching younger participants or people who are not as skilled. I don't know if that's BJJ.
Some of that's school to school, but blue belts will typically be someone who can teach fundamental classes to white belts. Depending
Can you
on
teach me?
I mean, we can.
You're not wearing your braces, and no.
I mean, we just put a mat down in that side of the garage over there. We're in my
I'm going
garage
to
right
leave
now.
the microphones on and just let people listen to you get broken on the floor. The next 4 minutes of this podcast will be, okay, yeah, you got it? Okay.
Crack your bones, crack your bones.
Yeah. So do you think that, I guess my question is knighthood just the top tier belt where it says you're the best at doing what you do, or is knighthood some other belt where it says you are now the person we trust to teach new people? Because
that's a loaded question there,
it sure
Lucas.
is. You don't have to answer it, but God, I need to remember what martial art this is. It might be like Taekwondo, but that sounds wrong. Ishinryu. I'm naming martial arts. But it is the way that they treat it. Once you get to this belt, you are now capable of teaching other people the thing. And is that what knighthood should be, or is this just how are you looking at candidates when they come in?
So I'm going to answer this question how I am looking at candidates.
Sure.
Because, again, the Knight Circle...
You can't speak for the whole...
Yeah, the Knight Circle is comprised of individuals, and each individual is going to have their...
Maybe. No.
My name is the Flo, and I speak for the Knights. What I am looking for when I am evaluating someone for a belt is, first... have they gotten all of their box tops? I think is how it's generically referred to.
Box
right?
tops, yeah.
Do they have the awards that they need?
Just to clarify, box tops are the 1 through 10 masterhood of the awards.
Yeah, box
Yes.
tops are, and sometimes you can trade in your orders, like of the warrior, for a Dakota ring if you get to 6 of them, and you just decide you're not getting any further.
Yeah, and for some of the belts where you have companion awards that can be given, I'm going to use Serpent Belt as an example here, because there's several different paths to Serpent. What do they have? What award level do they have in some of those other things? That's not a disqualifier for me. It's just a point of curiosity. Some people are very laser focused in what they're doing, and then we also have we have a dragon, which is kind of a super generic toss up for anything that's not garb.
Right, so you might see this person only has garbers, but oh my God, the stuff they're making is Shakespeare company quality, and they have no owls or anything else, and that might be okay. And then you have another person who is, has 10 garbers, and their garb is fine. It's not, blowing anybody's mind, but they also have 8 owls, and they have, 9 dragons, and they're good in a lot of categories, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is that aspect of it. You've also... I want to talk to the person. I'm normally at all of our events. I know most of the people in the kingdom, but I like to get to know someone too, because who you are as a person matters if you're going to be representing the Circle of Knights. We are in a position where, because we are an exclusive group, we are already in this category where people are naturally distrusting of anything that comes out of it, because the things that we say are being said behind closed doors. The things that we do are being done behind closed doors. And even though we are not the ones who knight people, we don't even have ultimate say on whether someone gets knighted. All we do is we give a recommendation of yes or no, and the monarch decides whether to follow it.
That's loaded.
Yeah,
That's
no,
loaded like a horse's diaper, though. If I knighted some guy without running it by the COK, what would happen?
It has happened a couple times, if I'm not mistaken, and it's
in our kingdom. No,
not in our kingdom. No.
How has it gone?
It's not gone great, basically, because the problem becomes a social faux pas kind of aspect. And it's not really from what I have seen, and it's only been internet stuff. So it seems like the monarch then isn't as looked down upon as the person who received the belt
That's what I
unjustly.
would work. Right. Like you wear that white belt out and like everybody knows you are.
Right.
Like I don't mean to insult those people.
Because
who've
as the
gotten it that way,
monarch, you
but-
put somebody in a really crappy position.
Yeah, so like you're right in that the COK doesn't officially on paper have the power to make a knight, but
But the COK officially has the power to make.
I mean,
Unofficially,
yeah,
Or
unofficially,
yeah, thank you.
like it would be very hard for me to make a knight just whole cloth and sell it to you and it work out okay. I feel like it would be bad. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So, what kind of things have they done for whatever class of belt that they're going towards? What kind of person are they? I mean, I'm sorry. This is hard for me to say because I grew up in an amp guard where if you did the thing, you get the thing. If you did the work, you get the belt. But as I have gotten older, and maybe this is unfair, maybe it's not, I don't know. But if you're just a complete jerk, I don't want you to be a knight in our game.
I mean, to some degree, that's where masterhood and knighthood can be broken.
Yeah.
You know, much like the old idea of warlord versus sword knight. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I miss that. I miss that distinction. And the problem is this: Amp went through our attitude era, if you want to call it that, like circa
I do want to call it that.
circa
so bad.
wrestling or whatever. You know, where you had people in that were knights that were just complete jerks. Not all knights were, of course, but
Well, and some of those knights who are still in the game did mellow out
Yes.
with age, but I
Yeah.
mean, yes, to your credit, I see what you're saying.
and I don't want that. We don't live in that amp guard anymore. I don't want to deal with people that kind of get in and get this power hunger to them, I guess is a good way to put it. Like this is supposed to be for fun. And if your fun, you don't have a right to ruin other people's fun to try and create yours.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
This is maybe that's the best way that I can put my line in the sand for that is your form of fun cannot come at the expense of others' form of fun. And I know that that's loaded as well, and we're probably going to get comments in the YouTube group of examples of
This
how
is
that could go
entirely
bad
off
or
the
something.
cuff. Like
Right?
I'm sure
But
if you had to write an answer that was formal, it might be different. But just first impression. Yeah.
it's that can be a tough thing. But in general, just being a jerk, you're going to get knocked down several points in my eyes for something like that. And then the final one is there is a debate on whether all knights should be teachers, and there is even a debate on what being a teacher means.
Okay.
Right? So even our own knight circle is not unified in this. It's not that I don't think that there's a right answer to the question. I think it's how you view knighthood in a way.
Also, potentially, like you said earlier, how you view teaching.
Yeah, how you view
Like,
teaching.
Gunn does great one-on-one teaching, and it's not necessarily any kind of formal thing, but he kind of struggles with like a class aspect of it, right? So, are we going to be negative towards someone who just doesn't do a class-style structure, right?
Yeah, he is. Gunn's a great example because he's one of those people that I feel pretty confident saying he learns best by doing, and he teaches best by showing.
I think I
directly.
agree with that completely. Yeah.
And that form of teaching is not conducive to a 50-person
Large groups.
class or
Yeah.
something like that, right?
Okay, to be
Even
fair,
10 people.
I don't know how anyone teaches a class of any kind to anyone because everybody's at a different skill level. Like people who are teachers, I genuinely don't get how the hell they're supposed to manage that. So in Amthgard, where people can not only be at different skill levels, but different ages and different, different levels of competence just with their own bodies. Like how do you teach a fighting class to that many people? So I can understand that. Like that would be a tall order for anyone.
More respect to people that do things like SKBC or
Absolutely.
or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But for me, I think that a knight should be able to pass on their knowledge. Now, if you want to call that teaching, you can call it teaching. If you want to call it something else, you can. But you need to be able to pass on the knowledge and experience that you have gained over the years. And that is what I am looking for. Gunn is able to do that. So for me, he was an easy yes in that book. If you are not able to do that, that might be one of the only things that is a hard stop for me. I totally understand that people have different levels of social involvement or social anxiety or whatever like that. So I'm not looking for any grand things. But if you can't pass on the knowledge that you've learned, then your value to the kingdom as a whole, and that's really what knights are supposed to be. You are supposed to be the people that people can go to when they have questions. Your value to the kingdom as a knight is diminished greatly.
So I think we can tangentially get somewhere with this too. Getting to knighthood seems to produce a lot of burnout. So
Yes.
Is this something that should be part of getting to knighthood, or is this something that, like, is this a perseverance aspect to it, or do you think this is a bad negative thing? Like, how many people have we seen coming in through the game, getting their 7th order or so far, and get burnout and just leave the game? Like, is that...
So I think the root of your question there, I've heard it asked a couple different ways, is there a time commit? Is one of the prices that you have to pay for a belt a time commitment into the game?
To some degree, but more of like the dealing with the, because each level or each order of knighthood has its own places for burnout, right?
Well, can I speak to that as a non-knight real
Yeah,
quick
yeah.
and how I see it?
Yeah.
The burnout is a feature, not a bug. And that is to say that as a knight, I assume you're going to be asked to weigh in on certain things. You are going to, at some point, have to give someone advice. You are going to have to deal with certain issues that you wouldn't have to as a non-knight. Someone's phone is buzzing. Is that you?
That's mine.
Okay, we're all looking around the room for a phantom phone. So, it's Jay.
It is.
I can't wire him in.
Next week.
Shit, yeah.
Next week.
Next week. Okay. Damn it. Dang it. We could just ambush him right now. He doesn't even know. So, okay, the burnout is a feature, not a bug. If you can't stand the climb, then you may not be fit to do the job as a knight. It's the same,
So is
it's
it worth the
base camp
loss
Mount-
of that information though? Because if someone's burned out so bad that they've went and left the game, is that really worth it for the game as a whole?
If they had gotten their belt as easily as they wanted it, would they be the kind of knight that Flo just said he wants?
Yeah, so
Like it's the climb to the base camp of Mount Everest. That in itself is a climb you have to be fit to do. If you can't make the climb to base camp, you don't get to go to Everest the next day.
I want to tell a
and you're not
story.
physically fit to do it. If you can't make the climb to base camp, you're not fit to climb Everest. Like that is genuinely a thing the Sherpas have to like tell people. Like if they're turning around, they're like, you don't get your money back. You don't
Right.
get to go. So I don't know. Like is the loss of that information or that person worth it? I don't know. Flo, answer the question.
Yeah,
Or
so
story time anyway.
well, okay, let me answer the question first. I got burnt out. Most people I know have gotten burnt. I think everyone in this room at one point or another has been burnt out.
If you look at most knights in the orc, whatever their belt is, so like if Flo, you are a crown knight, you also have like 8 warriors. If you look at Duffer, who is a flame knight, he now has 10 dragons. But
I thought he's a 2-belter. He's crown and flame, isn't he?
I believe so.
yeah. So and he's at 10 dragons now. But like most knights have gotten really close. Like Sir
Has he gotten
Gillen,
anything for the castles? Can we?
that's how he got his 10th.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah. Sir Gillen is a sword knight and has 8 or 9 crowns. Like
Yeah.
again, everybody does. The thing is those people get burnt out and they do something else. That's what I've seen. Looking at the orc for a lot of knights, this is something that Duffer pointed out. Sir Duffer, I went and looked after he said this, and I was like, oh shit, they all do. Like they get burnt out, but they don't quit the game.
Right. Yeah, move on to something that you still find fun.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. So, story that I was going to tell.
Sorry.
This is a story. So this is Sir Gillen's story that I'm telling, and it involves Jarek, Chuck. So they were at a tournament down, I think it was in Neverwinter. I think we were still in Neverwinter at the time. And Jarek had reached a point where he was one kill away from getting his 4th or 5th order. I don't remember which one it was. And so, of course, Sir Gillen is the next person in line. That's the kill. And, Jarek, joking around, of course, he throws up his hands in the air. He's like, oh, of course, it's you. Can't I just have this one, man? And he's joking about it. He, of course, doesn't want Gillen to throw the fight or anything like that. But Sir Gillen said something that really has stuck with me, because I was way back in line behind them there. He said something that has really stuck with me. He said, Chuck, one of these days, you are going to be a sword knight. That is just a fact. And you will look back on, if you're able to beat me in this fight, you will look back on this and thank me for what I'm about to do. There's no way that I would just hand this to you, because getting the belt is not the goal. The journey that you took to get there is the goal. That's what helps you grow as a person. The belt is just the recognition you get from your peers that you have reached that level. And I thought that was just one of the best things that you could say to someone right before you one-shotted them and sent them to the back of the line.
That is a hard question to answer, though. I genuinely, when you bring up is it worth losing that person, I guess I don't feel like you have to lose the person, right? If the person gets burnt out pursuing a belt and they quit the game, they were probably going to get burnt out at some point anyway.
Well, and
I burnt out and quit the game. I also had a 5-year-old, so give me a little bit of slack. But
right.
I burnt out and quit the game for 5 years, and I did come back. But I also could have just done things online and helped organize, taught classes or something. Maybe I should have done that instead, and I wouldn't be starting 5 years later with nothing to show for it.
Well, maybe if we had reached out to you at the time.
Well, that's kind of my point. Is that if someone is on the journey to burnout, right? Why aren't we actively trying to help burnout,
What does burnout look like to you? Because burnout's different in everybody,
right?
Right?
Yeah, it's burnout is going to look different to different people.
Right. If they're making melodramatic Facebook posts, or if they just seem fucking done when they show up to park, okay, that person's
right.
Obviously.
Exactly.
But some people burn out differently.
Yeah, you see them they're not coming out to park as much, and it's not because football season's going on or something like that.
Lexi's writing an aggressive note. She refuses to talk, so all we heard was the pen clicking. We'll see what that turns out to be.
But that's you are right. There is not one look for it. It can be hard to identify. And then there's also those people that they just don't really like to talk to people.
Yeah.
They're not the kind of person that is just going to message you back and have a, all day long conversation on Facebook Messenger or something like that, because that's just not who they are. It can be tough, but it can be tough isn't a reason to not reach out. If you notice any kind of thing like that, be like, hey man, how you doing today? I think Obonions said this to us when he said a lot of problems could be solved.
It's another reason
people
why
just reached out.
Obonions episode is one of my favorite, just because all the little things that are in that episode are huge.
Captain
It's
Positivity.
a million small pieces of good advice. But the other thing that stuck out to me with that is so far everybody has kind of the same advice. How do we grow the game? Plan, promote, be super cool to the people that are new at your park and all of those things. And Obonion had some really cool stuff, like reach out to the people that are getting burnt out.
I really liked his, I think he called it something like 70-30 in the sense of 70% on the core, 30% on recruitment.
Right.
And this is something that I
retain your members, don't recruit
retention is the biggest part, because at this point, I don't think that we get that many walk-ups in the sense of we're in this park because it's a populated park and a lot of people can see us. I think done is that time.
Yeah.
Okay.
With social media and stuff like that.
So my whole thing about
we are
park
swinging
location,
left and right. It's great though.
Listen, this is a SLUFF episode. It doesn't matter. Okay, so the whole reason I keep bringing up park location is because we have a buddy at Freehold, Ruben,
Buccaneers Respite.
Buccaneers Respite.
Good guy.
And the one
Great group. They look like
they've gotten bigger through COVID, which is just fucking wow. But the thing is we went to go visit and we pulled up and their park is genuinely hard to find. And Ruben, I love you and I love your park, but I want to see you guys.
In and of itself is a great looking park.
It is, but you also have to like pay $3 for
no,
parking.
it's only like $1 or $2.
Okay, yeah.
But still, like it is a barrier of entry.
You can't see it driving by. You have to pay to get into the park. It's up and over the hill. And like, I want this place to fucking succeed. I have family in Johnson City. I can go to that park like 4 times a year.
I mean, it's an hour and 15 minutes away from here. Like,
I'm lazy and it's convenient.
Yeah, 100%.
All of my, because I talked to him immediately afterwards and I was like, hey, have you ever thought about changing your location? And he said, we're not really. And to be fair, his park has grown, so I'm probably wrong. But I keep bringing up the location thing because part of me wants to be like, just go to a fucking park that people can walk by so your park can survive the winter and so your park can survive the COVID. But
right, but I'm not sure that that's the only downside to his park is the pay to parking. I think that is the only downside to it in today's day and age.
Right.
Now you can he's got ways to kind of circumvent it to some degree.
Well, and they go to cons, and like you said, there's social media.
There is a free parking area, but you have to walk a little farther. He also said that like we'll ferry people back and forth if they don't have it or pay for it or whatever, So they definitely have the workaround.
Right.
So that's not like I don't think it's a disservice to them to some degree. But the only thing, like I said, is a barrier, and maybe it's a barrier from someone saying, "Hey, I want to go visit, but I don't want to pay for parking for whatever reason, whether it's some moral weird thing or like just don't have the extra dollar or whatever."
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's why that always comes up though. Like I've brought that up in every episode, and I'm kind of stopping now because I realize like it doesn't matter, and Ruben gets it.
But yeah,
he's messaged me and posted about it. Like I fucking shut up. I'm like,
because like I said, I don't think that recruitment comes from the walk-ups anymore. We have social media stuff, and maybe like local parks need to be more aggressive on social media type things, like instead of being just on Facebook, because that's the 25 and up group basically, roughly. We're missing the lower end of it. Like I have not seen near as many 16 to 20 year olds come to the game as whenever I first started.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do we need to be putting out like the how to throw a shot on TikTok or something like that?
I don't know if how to throw a shot necessarily would be the way to go, but it potentially is. But I think people managing like legitimately like a
just a jugging match that turns into a fist fight. Sorry, I said jugging match twice in that, didn't I?
Right. Yes. But like a social media position for a local park, effectively, where they manage Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
some
whatever.
local groups are like paying
like
for
that.
Google AdWords to go to the park.
I remember Walbaron,
I think had some moderate success at Emerald Academy when he did the Facebook group. I think he put $50 in, and I think that's something to consider. But again, like we're missing the Instagram audience. We're missing, I don't know if TikTok would be one. It's weird. TikTok's a weird universe to be in. So
yeah, well,
it's wild, and I think it has real potential.
What else are you going to do on the toilet?
Right, exactly.
Well, okay, so TikTok has pointed out to me, though, that there are, more than ever, there are more combat sports that exist than anyone was aware of. So, I mean, we've always known, because we do foam fighting, we already knew about Amped Guard and Belagarth and Dagger here.
And tangentially, SCA and ACGL, whatever, the Armored Combat League and things like that.
Yeah, but now there's HEMA, there's Boohurt.
I don't know how to say it. I've seen it
right
now.
It looks like Butthurt.
It does.
Okay, pause for just a moment. What? Tell me more about Butthurt. What is Butthurt?
Okay, do you know that I sent you a TikTok where it's playing, I can't even remember what the song is, but like this guy's got him in a corner and he puts his gorget down and then bonks him on the head.
Yes.
That's Boohurt.
So it's like Armored Combat League.
Yeah, it is another full armored combat sport.
Yeah, okay.
So it's not that I don't think that the combat LARPy sports is dying. I think that there are just now so many that we have to be more aggressive about taking our piece of that pie as Amped Guard, because before Amped Guard was really the cheapest one to get into, and it was the only one that most people had heard of, like that, Belagarth or Dagger here. You
also had the magic system of Amped Guard to kind of bring
to differentiate us from the other games. Yeah. So, but now there's a lot of them, and people are aware of them because
and not
of
even
shit
just
like
national organizations. It's just like local level LARPs exist in the sense of big, monthly 50-person events randomly. Some of those usually don't last which is the interesting thing about Amtgard and Belgarth and everything, is that we
This
are
would
lasting.
be like the LARPy LARP sort of stuff.
Yeah,
like
the
Hero
lightest
does.
touch LARPs and stuff like that. I've seen, I don't know how many pop up in quote-unquote Knoxville area, right? But they're grabbing people from Kentucky and Georgia and stuff too, and they're getting a following
People
of...
will go a distance to do like Vampire the Masquerade.
Right. Well, I mean, Vampires, again, like another big one, but like
Yeah.
there was a local one, I don't know if it's still going on, or semi-local one called Exodune, and they were kind of a steampunk-ish LARP, right? And you guys mentioned before, Hero or Chris went to that for a long time.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it's still around. But then like the Hit, which was a splinter of Nero, I think, it lasted for a few years, and I don't think it's still around at the moment. But those are seeing like a large number of people, at least 50 per thing, and they're charging double or more on their monthlies
So
than
what
we
would you
charge
say-
for an event every 3 months.
What would you say then is Amtgard's biggest selling point? If we had somebody and this was a vending machine and they got to pick their LARP out of it, what would make them pick Amtgard over any of these other ones?
Honestly, I think it's the weekly or bi-weekly attendance. Like, I think that having that community on a normal basis, a group of friends that you see every week, something to look forward to every week, or bi-weekly for some parks, is the biggest sell. I think that...
I always thought it was the price because Amtgard, like you said, is super cheap.
No, if you look at all of these lightest touch LARPs, their kits are better looking than ours. They're more expensive than ours. Their weapons per
That's what I'm saying.
thing is more
Amtgard is cheaper.
expensive.
If you're broke and you want to play a LARP, Amtgard is right there, and it's
I mean,
nothing.
That's true, but I mean, what other people are coming to Amtgard that haven't, like, at this point, have any kind of background in some sort of LARP or RPG or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, in your example, I think that Amtgard is the Dr. Pepper. I think that we're the
I
Dr.
fucking hate Dr. Pepper.
Yeah,
name another drink.
No, I
Dr.
can't.
Thunder?
Yeah,
It's
but
better than Dr. Pepper.
Thunder Brew.
Somebody is going to come at me for saying that. They're going to be like, Dr. Pepper's amazing. It's barbecue water.
It's 188 different flavors.
They're all ass.
But no, I think that we're the Dr. Pepper of them, and this is why. For the people that are looking for the pay to play type LARPs, they are trying to get something very specific out of it. They may be people that aren't the most physically fit, and so they couldn't keep up with some of the heavier combat
Oh, yeah,
LARPs.
because everyone in
Dag and
Amtgard
Belgard.
is an Adonis, right?
I'm
Like,
not saying that
Okay.
that everyone in Amtgard is an Adonis.
I will take my shirt off on this podcast.
They may not be as physically fit, or may be intimidated by the type of combat that comes from the heavier fighting combat stuff like Bell, Dag, Amtgard, that sort of thing. It could be that they just want to be the hero of their story at all times. You know, when you're on a ditch in Amtgard or Dag or Bell, then John Thunder from 5 rows down might come over with his polearm and just kill you because he fights polearm a lot and he's good at it. And they like the idea of being more of a D&D character than Amtgard
The
can
hero
present.
story kind of aspect.
Yeah, the hero story sort of thing. That's a personal choice. Nothing wrong with them doing that.
I drive a Honda. I've accepted I'm not the main character of anything. I just...
It could be that for the subsect of people that are drawn to... So in those groups, I'm going to wrap that in a bow. In those groups, I'm going to include Nero, Solar. I mean, these games have been around for a long time, maybe
Solar
longer.
still a thing?
I think it is. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know if Solar's still a thing, but a lot of these have been around for a long time, maybe longer than Amtgard has, or at least as long.
Or close to, at least, yeah.
So then you have the section of people that are into what I'm going to call the heavier fighting side LARPs, like Amtgard, Dag, Bell. Is High Fantasy Society? Is it still?
I still think it's kind of like an in-between in some ways, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
I don't think it's migrated this far over from Texas.
Yeah, it might not have. But so then in that subsect of people, you have to then break them down into what are their interests going to be. Because we are fulfilling a kind of a
It's
minority.
a vastly different
right.
aspect.
Dag and Bell, in general, don't allow the types of garb that we have that's like neon with upside down cat in the hats on it and
I'm
stuff
cool
like
with
that.
I do not like the state of garb in Amthgard.
I
I'm gonna
understand.
die on this hill. I swear to God.
I understand, but for them it's a rule. Like you can't go on field. I think
with
that you,
modern looking equipment, basically.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, they even encourage people to put spats and stuff like that to cover up if you're wearing.
It's encouraged, but not super enforced from
Yeah.
my experience. But it's a little dated. I think it's been 5 or 8 years since I've been
So-
active.
So you have people that are drawn to that aspect of it. You also have people that are drawn to, and I think that this is the biggest draw for Dagon Bell over Amtgard. We have become a hotel culture.
At least in our area.
Yeah, at least in our area in Florida, a lot of the people that we know, Ozzy. I don't remember Ozzy's Amtgard name. Maybe it's Ozzy.
I think that's just how I've ever heard his name.
So,
Did you know I genuinely thought that Sir Gillen's Amthgard name was Zeb for the longest time?
yeah, no,
I think
everybody
literally
thinks that.
everybody does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Zeb's,
It's
of
his
course, his real name.
ass name.
Yeah.
Like I still even like calling him out in tournaments. I'm like Zeb, and like you mean Sir Gillen? I'm like, fuck, yes, damn it.
So Ozzy, one of just a regular guy, plays down in Neverwinter. We've known him for a long time. Said this a long time ago. Probably one of the most insightful things I heard the guy say. The dynamic of our game changed when we got older and got real jobs. When people were able to afford a hotel instead of sleeping on a tent on the hard ground, it changed the way that people interacted because we lost our go on walkabout
Visiting
night
different
community.
camps and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and just there, you would talk to people wandering around in your cloak because it's cold, half drunk. You would talk to people that you would. Can you be half drunk?
Nope.
You would talk to people that you would normally never talk to because, like, this is where bridges were built, right? Like this, you walk up to the camp of gypsy people who don't fight in ditches, who don't maybe not even do battle games unless they're heavy role play, and you sit down and you have a mead with them for 30 minutes around the fire and tell stories. And that went away when everybody left to go to hotels.
Yeah, and that's still there at the lightest touch LARPs that I've been to because they are a little smaller. So they end up being in bunks that are closer together or a bigger bunk house or something like that at their particular areas that they're having them. So you would get more community in a thing like that. So yeah, I think that's a potential thing, at least in Winter's Edge area, that we have missed. It could also explain a little bit of like fractionality to Winter's Edge as a whole from things as well. There's a lot less like meeting people and having to talk to them, see them more often.
Well, okay, but help me sell Amthgard to people. Like I understand that as an issue, but like if I had to say, is it just the weekly meetings thing that makes Amthgard stand out, or
the thing is I don't think Amthgard really stands out to the lightest touch guys very well because they
we're
want
in
to
an
be
awkward place between the heavy combat?
Yeah, we're in a really awkward place, I feel like, because the way our rule set is, there's not much consequence for death because there's literally none, or should be none, based on our rule set and how the objectives should work, in my opinion. Man, I really lost my train of thought on that.
Oh
one.
no, sorry.
Well, so again, I'm going to go back to this Dr. Pepper reference here. You ask how to sell it. How many commercials do you see for Dr.
Right.
Pepper?
So to me, like, to use a WoW reference, right? The lightest touch guys are the role players at Goldshire, right at the end.
Yeah.
And then Amthgarders.
They're all having sex in the inn upstairs.
Okay, they don't. So some of them I heard that way, but the Amthgard is more like Worse on Gulch or something like that. We are legitimately the battlegrounds in WoW or any other MMO that you can think of.
I think the Dag Bell guys would
less
have
less the consistent storylines, less the role play, and more the individual games that happen.
I think that is our biggest selling point, but I don't think that we can fully say that the other is lost. That's going to be up to your local level people putting together stuff.
Right. So if this was the pentagram stat chart that's in a lot of games where like you have strength, agility, whatever, like we're kind of just rounded in the middle where some games spike to one specific thing and they're like, we're all role play and we do very little fight. Okay.
I wouldn't say they do very little fight. It's just different from how we view it.
Okay. I can
Because
I can copy
they're
that.
like the lightest touch LARPs I've been to. There's a lot that goes on, and like whenever I mentioned that, someone probably wouldn't like it because there's not a lot of fighting. They're like, "But we fight all the time." I'm like, not real fighting. Was my original argument, right? But there was actually a lot of stuff going on. It's just that we fight in a more physical aspect of it than they do, and that's for better or worse.
So sell it to me from the point of someone that's currently playing Dag Bell, which is really close. We have a lot of places that produce swords that can be used in either game and things like that. I'm going to use the soft drink reference here again, and
You are on Dr. Pepper, man.
I've had way too many Cokes tonight.
Okay, so do the soft drink reference.
Yeah,
please.
I mean, Dr. Pepper is loosely grouped. I don't know if they're owned by the Coca-Cola company, but they're at least distributed by them, right? I can't remember.
I don't remember which one it is.
But the point is that just because I like Coke products, I drink Sprite, I drink Coke, I drink all of this other stuff, doesn't mean I automatically like Dr. Pepper.
Right.
And just like I like the heavier combat side stuff, and I'm drawn to that, doesn't necessarily mean that I also then go for throwing fireballs and
Joints are going to be
casting
my
spells.
first answer for moving from Bell or Dag to Amp Guard.
They roll better joints or like?
Cannot confirm nor deny that allegation,
okay.
but
real quick,
wrists and elbows and knees. Like I feel.
I took that in a completely different direction. I was totally with you on that one.
Okay, so what's the difference with joints? Just like it's
just
easier on
like
them?
because the weapons have to weigh a certain amount. The amount of force and impact is much higher, so you have more chance for true injury, right? But I mean, Amp Guard's going to see injuries as well, but I feel like it's less than their groups.
Right.
That's fair. The safety factor is there.
Yeah.
Just as a interesting fact, do you know who actually distributes Dr. Pepper?
Dr. Pepper?
Keurig.
Yeah, that's actually somewhat relative new thing.
Yeah, I
there's
didn't know
actually
that. I
a
looked
plant
it
in
up.
Knoxville that's a Keurig Dr. Pepper
The
plant.
coffee company?
Yeah,
Yep,
little pods.
the K cups. They make a ton of money per hour making a bunch of those things. By the way, it's nuts.
In Knoxville.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just looked it up because you said who distributed. I had to find out. So.
But I thought at one point like Dr. Pepper was under one of the umbrellas as well. But I don't know if they split somehow or another. That's interesting if they did.
Yeah, I don't know. I honestly
Because Dr. Pepper and Mr.
we're-
Pibb with a way in the
We're
weeds all
falling
of a
down it.
sudden.
We're falling down a rabbit
All
hole
right,
here,
somebody
boys.
think of a topic to close us out because we're encroaching well over an hour.
No, she won't let me do it. But we could have had a notes by Lexi.
Lexi has a madman.
Because I read a few of
over
them, and
here.
some of them are actually really good questions, and I need to see them because we can address them because they're actually really,
Just point
really
at one.
good.
We need a topic
One
to
of them-
close out the podcast.
One of them. I
Okay,
need to see the
hold
battle
on.
game ones because those ones are actually really good.
Okay, no, hold on. This podcast is a fucking sausage fest, and you're sitting here with a scrawl of notes about the podcast and refuse to talk on it. I can just swivel this around. This mic goes
It
does a
doesn't
180.
It doesn't matter. I mean, the mic that Teflon's talking on is
It totally
wide
picked her up,
cardio.
too.
Yeah, we've been hearing anytime she said anything.
So, we can end with Lexi's notes. So
You read my diary. It's only fair.
if we swing all the way back to the beginning of the podcast, we talked about battle games.
Yeah.
And I said take things seriously. And she wonders why, because you have the most fun when things are not serious. And I don't mean like I'm going to obliterate the other team. I mean like I should be taking cool abilities and things like that and allowing the new players to see these cool things happen. Because one of the big things with Amp Guard in the classes is that there are some really cool synergies that can happen and really cool defensive aspects that you can do as different classes.
So an example here would be like you take ice ball and shatter, and your point in doing it, even though it may not be optimal for the scenario that you're doing, is to show the new people on the field how an ice ball works, and that there are effects that can then happen after that in some way help your team.
Right.
Well, to put it in a more real example that we all know, it's okay to go out and be, Gok the stupid bard, who has fun, but, is a bard. And
Is that your bard's
whimsical.
name, Gok Gok?
No, because that's like, it's not good. but then we also have, you remember when Jay played bard, and he took it very, very not seriously, where, at the time you had to have an instrument, so he had a bike horn, and like...
He did, and his...
Well, but at that time it was required to have a musical instrument.
Right, but
yeah.
he could have gotten a harmonica.
This was V6, so
Yeah.
he played bard, you could make up your own spells, and he used ICP songs
Yeah,
as his...
So, and he would do goofy stuff like that, but he also did things deliberately. And again, we're going to have Jay on the podcast, but he did things that would break the game in some cases. You know,
Well,
he
me
would,
and him are bad about like, are there boundaries? No, cool. Did you say I can't run away with my flag? I can touch my flag. Cool. I'm gonna go run in the woods once we get ahead, and you can't catch me anymore.
yeah.
My
I'm
favorite
aspects.
My favorite
I'm driving
Jay
the
thing.
flag to Weigels. Good
Yeah.
luck, you know?
Yeah, my favorite thing that so for Banner Wars, for those listening, Banner Wars is an event in I think Texas, and you got to bring your own flag. And Jay's idea was that we were going to pour a 100-pound concrete slab that's 4 by 8.
I remember this. Yeah.
To use as our, and we were just going to paint the flag because they gave no standards on what the flag looked like or how it needed to be transported, right? So that was his idea for our flag, for just some of the funsies that Jay has come up with in the past.
One of the questions he wrote was, "What?" We'll just go to Lucas with this one. What has been your favorite battle game so far, and why?
Is jugging a battle game?
Technically, yes.
I love jugging. I love jugging so much that I still, from my break, am not caught up with how much the rest of Amthgard kind of doesn't like jugging. Because I'm like, we should do jugging at an
You
event.
left, and there was jugging leagues, and there was
No, I missed the best part for me. Because I came back and I'm like, we should do jugging at an event. We should have a jugging day at Park. Rutger Hauer died. Let's jug. And like everybody's like, well, I like it, but people get too competitive.
Oh, me and Teflon over on
Yeah.
the other side, like, man, we did a lot of jugging.
Yeah,
Is there
like-
anything else we can do?
Like, you lose friends when you jug. So jugging is my favorite battle game. But as far as my favorite, like if I were to take the question maybe as it's meant, what is my favorite?
Like a specific one, say like
Right.
Clover's Titans game or something along those lines.
Clover actually ran several very good games at, I believe, Qualls at Everliving Woods. And one of them was this, you had to fill up your storehouse. So there were 2 bases. And then there was a big middle area that was like a rope maze.
Yeah, it roped out, and there was again some kind of terrain thing you
Yeah.
had to migrate through.
And there were all these scoosh balls, little
Navigate.
gamma balls or whatever, and like you had to collect them, but you couldn't have a weapon in that hand, and you had to walk back to your base with there were a lot of rules on how you could get the rations back to your base, and the whole time you're being attacked by the other team. So there was a very, after the initial chaos of the game starting, there was a very strategic element to it, where some people, you would see somebody carrying a thing and you would know, I can't also go for a ball because I need to protect this person or I need to distract. So that was actually a really fun one for me. I liked it in its strategy.
Yeah. Flo, you haven't actually played a whole lot of battle games lately. Do you have one that you can think of, even from older game time periods or anything like that?
I do. I have one that is by far the favorite battle game that I ever participated in. So down in Florida, we had this Alice in Wonderland battle that they put together.
Yeah.
And Sir Nocturne, I think just Nocturne at the time, but Sir Nocturne later, made, I'm going to say 100 5-foot spears.
Those
And-
things were amazing, by the way.
All of the card, the deck of cards people had spears, and you had the Queen of Hearts running around and the White Rabbit, and this wasn't the whole event was role play thing. This was
It's just a singular battle game, if I'm not if I'm remembering correctly.
That's correct, but you to get the Queen of Hearts on your side, you couldn't just come up and like tap her with a sword a couple of times and go, ha, you're on my side now. You had to play out the part. You had to convince this person who was like, off with their heads. It doesn't matter who you've disappointed me. That the other side had offended her in some way that made it worth her joining your side. And she was a crazy, powerful wizard once she joined. And the White Rabbit, could do things like touch someone. And then both of you were just teleporting because he's so fast and he's late. It was zany and crazy, and they didn't even try to, you knew what the objective of the battle game was, but they didn't even attempt to explain what all of the different characters could do in it.
That's interesting.
I think that can be fun if it's done right.
Yeah, they just did things like the White Rabbit would grab on to King Cabbage's arm and say, we're late. And then, boom, they would teleport over to the castle. And he's like, come on, we're teleporting now. And then he would just walk you. You were on a journey when you were interacting with any of those characters. And this was V6 or V7 at the time, so it could be that while you're talking to the queen, she activates a circle of death around her, and everyone in a 50-foot radius dies because you've disappointed her in some way. Off with their heads, and then boom, the circle's active. But everyone knew what the objective was, which was to get into Wonderland, get the object, and then get out of Wonderland. And you were running across all of the crazy things as you were going on. There were 2 castles involved. There was mazes on the ground that you had to go walk through, and it was just what's the kind of bright colored tape that you can put on the ground? Marking tape or
yes,
whatever.
That's it.
That they had staked into the ground in places for different parts of the objectives that different characters would say, hey, you need to go do this. That was amazing to me. I was still a pretty young.
I was so mad that I didn't actually fight in that battle game. I don't even remember why I wasn't there for it, but I didn't participate in it for some reason. And when I came across probably halfway through, I was like, I've missed out. I should have just jumped on a team and not worried about it.
Yeah.
So coming back from that one, hats off to whoever made those stupid spears. Like you said, they were 5-foot spears and they were stab only. Somehow or another, either by ill-gotten gains or whatever, we ended up with like 3 or 4 of them.
No. We did end up with 3 or 4 of them. It wasn't ill-gotten. You were allowed to keep the spear.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's nice. That's
so
cool.
we ended up having duels, me and Jay's brother and a couple other people, where it was basically fencing, but because they were 5 feet, and we had to hold them by the end, by near the pommel.
Yeah,
they were a little hard to control. So these duels were the most ridiculous stuff. You'd close on somebody, and then you'd have to reach all the way above your head to try and stab them in the stomach. Basically, they were dumb.
Was this the inspiration for your crazy fencing swords you have now?
Not directly. That ended up being something similar.
I'm
but
so mad I can't use those as a bard.
You can. They're longswords.
They're stab only.
Yeah.
Can that still be a longsword? I thought
Yeah.
that puts it in speed. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm not mad anymore. So speaking of dangerous duels and whatever, we sort of joked about it, but the next time we jug, we are quicking, right?
Sure, I'm down.
We're gonna wrestle.
I'm down for no dagger.
No dagger wrestling.
Wrestling, yeah.
I want this. I miss jugging, you guys.
I remember Z turning to me. Z's one of our park members. Is our monarch right now?
Is the monarch of Radiant Valley, and we should have her on at some point, maybe.
We should.
Yeah.
So I remember Z turning to me. She and I were quicking this last time that we did it when Rutger Hauer died, and turning to me after we'd been doing it for most of the day and saying, you know what? I understand now why people say that this can be dangerous. People get really mad out here. I was like, yeah, this is a lot better than it used to be. Z.
Yeah.
So my favorite battle game actually didn't come from Amtgard. And it's very similar in the way that the cards thing was, in the aspect there was a bunch of things to interact with, right? So Dirtamirian in Nashville, they're a Belgarth group. They did it, I think, not technically as the Belgarth group Dirtamirian. It was like a role-play-ish side event kind of thing. Mm-hmm. They had a quest to put this staff back together, I think is what the actual thing was. I don't really remember the why. But the problem was I got so caught up in all the little side quests they had. Like they had a guy wandering around who was mad because he was drunk. He wanted to get drunk, but he couldn't because every time he put anything into his cup, it just emptied. Like all water went into it, wouldn't do it. He couldn't have alcohol in his cup or nothing. He was very sad about it. And then later on, you find someone else wandering around talking about how, man, I need some help. I don't know how to ask for the help, but my town's flooded and stuff. So you put together like, well, if we just bring this dude's cup over to that town, it'll suck up all the water.
Oh, I just thought he had a really shitty cup.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, he has a hole in the bottom or something like that.
He did have a shitty cup, but it was shitty for him, not for everybody else, right?
Yeah.
Like there was legitimately like 6 or 8 little side quest things that I did. And I wasn't even working towards the main quest. I totally forgot about it. I was just so absorbed into all these little side quest things that they had going on.
It's kind of like an escape room.
It was, because everything was a puzzle. I remember there being like, they had a cool thing that they did for a chest. It was basically 2 pieces of plywood with a with a hinge on it. So when you opened it, you felt like you were opening a chest, but it came open and like I opened the dang bomb. So it had a picture of a like, you know, the round bombs with the
little
thing
fuse
on
sticking
them.
out.
Yeah, the fuse sticking out.
Acme bomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, what happens if the fire alarm goes off while you're in an escape room?
You die.
No, I want to be really specific. There is not a standard 2x4 wall that will prevent me from getting through it.
I don't do escape rooms, so I just didn't know.
I will Kool-Aid man straight through drywall and insulation and anything. Flo will not burn to death inside of the escape room unless there's brick or something on the other side.
That's fair.
One of the observations that she had when we were talking about burnout is hyper, as she put it, hyper amp aggression. And that's not to do with fighting. It's trying to do it all. Like trying to be an autocrat and trying to do everything you can before walking away. There's been several people that we've had, I think, go through Winter's Edge who's done this at some point or another. I think Kazan has done this at one point. So watch out for your bros who, if you're trying to take on too much, maybe they're working towards burnout and stuff like that too.
Well, at a certain point too, you get to this, you're like, I can do it better than they can, and I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to do the damn thing because I don't feel like, and then that I can see where you end up in that position.
I think that why I do things, quote unquote, in the way that I do leadership is because I've watched so many people do that and fall down that hole. And it's, if you want to do something and I'm in that leadership position or whatever, by all means do it. I don't care what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, well, this brings up another really good point too, and this kind of goes with the Krat stuff as well. But so I wanted to start doing some feast stuff.
Right.
But I am not the type of person that is going to go in and cook every single individual meal and make sure that everything is perfect. I did that for an event. I'm glad that I did so that I could experience what some of the other people have gone through. But I look at my position more as like a kitchen manager. And I think all Krat positions, that same thing could be applied to.
Yeah,
you know,
they are basically management positions.
You are organizing the people under you to make sure that the job gets done. Now, whether the person decides to bid out for different meals or whatever, and they're in the kitchen and they're helping direct people and do whatever, you know, it's not that they're not involved, but does that diminish their job in that Krat position if at the end of it, the meals were on time, the food was cooked well, whatever needed to be done was done within the controlling limits that we discussed earlier. You know, you can't control if the stoves go
Right.
out.
So for me, like, I don't think it diminishes at all. I think in some ways that it's in better, at least in the burnout aspect, better, you know, because you're a lot less likely to be like, oh, I need to cook the steak or whatever it is you're cooking. And then I need to go do this. I need to make sure that so-and-so's on that. I need to make sure that this is happening and that and that. And then you potentially sacrifice the quality of the food because you're taking on too much, right?
Well, I did it for a very specific reason. When I did it, when I was in the kitchen, I kept a notebook. What are the cheapy notebooks that you can buy?
Composition
at Walmart?
book?
Yeah, thank you. A comp book in there, and it was on the front. I wrote the book of Flo, and so you know somebody would be running by and it's like, hey, one of the Gatorades is getting low, and I was like, okay, hey, go get the thing for us, bring it back here, and then I have a bag of trash that I'd like you to haul over to our trash thing. And when you finish, write your name in the book of Flo. And I wanted to hand out awards to people.
Right.
There was no secret to what I was doing, right? I very much wanted to be able to hand out awards to people, and maybe them.
I mean, it's the biggest problem I have, like whenever I run something, is I forget. So having that notebook to be like, hey, do your thing, write it down, would be great for me. So that's something I'm going to try and take on the next time I run something. It's amazing.
It got covered in bacon grease and tomato sauce and
That's fine. It
barbecue
doesn't
and
matter.
everything. Yeah, it didn't matter.
I just like the book of Flo.
Yeah.
In the beginning, there was the kitchen, and the kitchen was with Flo.
So I don't know where these were pertaining to because her notes are all over the place and she can't take notes like a regular person. But
Are you complaining that she came up with good questions for us to ask?
No, I'm not complaining she came up with good questions. I don't know how to follow where it was in our conversation where these came through. So, well, this one's not as much as, so this is going back to like retention type aspect.
Right.
Why do you keep coming out as a player? We'll go with Flo first.
Oh God, I've got
This
the
is
two
like
of
when
you
we're at
to-
Waffle House. You got to buy me time.
I've got the two of you to take care of.
Oh, fuck right off.
No, okay,
Oh,
so
that's a big.
so why do I keep coming out? I keep coming out for a couple of reasons. One, and this is in no particular order, but I will say that this is probably one of the bigger ones for me. I still have things that I want to accomplish. I still have goals. I'm a goal-oriented person, and I still have goals that I would like to achieve. I've gotten knighthood, and that's awesome. I've said from the very beginning of when I started playing that I would like to catch them all. I want
Right.
all 4 of the belts. So that, of course, is a goal. But as I've gotten older, my priorities have changed, and the things that I was looking for changed some too. I want the experience that I had when I was a young amp guarder, the fun that I had at events, to exist. I want the new people that are coming up now to be able to have that same kind of fun. I want to promote an environment in our kingdom that people feel safe in, that people can have fun in, that people want to bring their kids to, because if I have seen anything over the years, it is that families in AmpGuard last longer, and having inviting environments for kids of all ages to do stuff with is one of the ways that we can make sure that as our community ages and starts having kids, that those younger kids that do join, you mentioned, the 16, 17, 18-year-olds earlier,
Yeah.
that we were not getting as many now. So when they become 19, 20, 21, 22, and they starting families, I don't want them to feel like they have to choose between their family and AmpGuard.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that our kingdom has been doing better and better at
The Pop It Crap position
yeah.
that
Yeah.
Red or Libby and oh man, I have blanked on names all of a sudden. Kay or Lavender has done, I believe. There's probably others, and I'm just bad and I don't remember people.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't remember any of them either. But yes, stuff like that is a great way to do it. So you sum up for this, I still have goals that I want to do. I want to see people have as much fun as I was able to have when I was a younger amp guarder, and I want to continue to promote this positive environment in the game, and somewhere where everyone feels like they can come out and find something to do.
Yeah. So, Lucas, what do you think you're best known for in Winter's Edge?
Am I known for anything in Winter's Edge? Look, I did a 5-year break, came back and became Monarch somehow. I don't know. What do people know me for?
Yeah, you are, but it's not good.
Oh. Yeah, that's fair. A lot of people's first impression of me is when I was like 14. So what am I known for in Winter's Edge? God, I don't know. What am I known for in Winter's Edge?
I can help you out. with
Lexi,
that.
I feel like you wrote that question with a specific answer in mind.
She won't
She's
even
never gonna say
acknowledge.
we'll never know. It's a steel trap. Okay, what am I known for?
So,
Aside from being that really obnoxious kid at 14. Yes, I'm aware.
yeah, that. No, so what are you known for now? Since you're older now, you've come back to the game. This is kind of hard to say in a way, right? But a lot of the older amp guarders now, the people that I grew up with, are memories in the kingdom. Puddin is a great guy, has done an amazing amount of work for the principality and then for the kingdom. On a bit of a break right now, has a young family. All the love to you, Puddin, but a lot of the people that you come to an event, and people don't necessarily know who Puddin is. They know of the memory of Puddin.
Man, as someone who left the game for a while and came back, it's kind of actually really cool come in and be the not known person except by the veterans in the game.
Yeah, that is fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can cite numerous examples there. I am actually one of those people.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I think everyone in this room, so Lexi included, are kind of that way.
But you are in a unique position. You came back, and you and Vidalia started visiting a lot of other groups,
Right.
a lot of our younger groups, and have they know you. They know who you are. You are fulfilling the role that Flo and Teflon and Lexi and Shalazar and Zeb and all of the people that used to be traveling quite a bit used to fill.
Yeah.
All of the parks, they don't have a memory of who Cabbage is. They know who Cabbage is.
Right.
And so I think that that's what you do for the kingdom right now.
Yeah, I can cop to that. And also I can get crazy when I've had a few drinks. It's fine.
So tangentially, what do you want to be known as for Winter's Edge?
Okay. This is a... Well,
give you a softball question, right?
No, it's not. This is the question that I feel like is going to bring the whole podcast down.
Nah.
So a lot of people, come in with different goals in mind. Obviously, when I started, I wanted to be a fucking sword knight, which I think everyone does.
I think large portion of people like that aspect.
Well, it doesn't help too that I was at a park that had Sir Gillen, and he was about to be a sword knight, and he was just amazing to watch on the field.
Right.
I mean, he's a dinosaur now, so it's like it's still cool to watch him just because he still works.
You look at the skeleton of the T-Rex in the museum and go, that used to be powerful.
Yeah, exactly. So no. So starting out, I wanted to be a sword knight, and then very quickly realized what a lot of people do, which was that I'm never going to be a sword knight. Just look at the shape of my body,
That's not an excuse anymore. Brett had it.
So at
Golwyn.
some point,
Golwyn too, yeah.
One of the Sir Golwyn down in
that guy
Florida
was always kind of fit.
one of the best sticks that I have ever seen play the game. I'm putting him beside Leaf and Spin and everyone else.
Right.
Most consistent, most technical sticks that I've ever seen play the game, and he was a big guy.
Mm-hmm.
So big guys that are listening to this, you're not out.
Well, okay, so wanted to be a sword knight. Eventually decided that wasn't going to work. Just wanted to be a knight at all, right? That sort of was the progression. Sword knight to I'll take any white belt. Any of them are good, And then, honest to God, if I had to be, to borrow a Clover story or to a Clover phrase, to real talk. When I ran for Monarch, it did cross my mind like, oh, this is a path to a crown belt. Okay, this is cool. But after sitting in this position for a while, and I know we've talked about this privately, but like, honest to God, if I keep the game around for a few more years, I'm cool with being known for that. And if that just means I just kept kicking the can down the road for the next Monarch, I'm okay with that, because there are some things on the international side, and not to get too dramatic about it, but there are genuinely things on the Amtgard International side, since we became a real business, that threaten the livelihood of the game.
Yeah.
And it, people always talk about like, oh, Amtgard International sucks, or like, I hate dealing with AI comm. we're just going to be Winter's Edge and fuck those guys. And I respect that. I completely understand the desire to do that.
Yeah, we're just at a point that can't be done, I think.
You can't do that anymore. And there are an unnerving number of monarchs in other kingdoms who still keep that. And yes, I'm calling them out. I don't care. They know my opinion. There are an unnerving number of monarchs in other kingdoms who keep that energy. They're like, I'm just going to do my kingdom and fuck this. I don't have to deal with this wider scope, but we absolutely do.
Well, I think Winter's Edge as a whole, at least when I came back, had that aspect. And not like in a negative way, just as I don't care what other kingdoms are doing. We're just going to do Winter's Edge things, which, I can respect that to some degree. But at the same time, again, like, you have a word standardization that's supposed to be somewhat equivalent, but, it's hard to be equivalent whenever you don't know what's going on and things like that. So it's really difficult.
So my goal went from be a sword knight to be any knight to just keep the game around so people can be knights in it. And honest to God, I'm cool with that. That's fine by me.
We've talked about this a little bit on the Belted Family chat before, but all of us have been in high-level positions in the principality or kingdom multiple times, and one of the main goals that you have when you're in office is just to control the level of crazy that your populace has to deal with.
Yeah.
This isn't about censoring the information that's coming to them or anything like that, but there's some things that by their private nature, by the private nature of what's going on, they can't know, right? And there's just, for anyone that's been in office, they can tell you this. There is just some zany things that come up that you have to deal with when you got the weight of that crown on your head, and or I assume, since I've never been king,
You bastard.
but But yeah, you're controlling the amount of crazy that the kingdom has to deal with, and when you do have to, do have to is a bad way to say that maybe. When you are talking to them about some of the crazy that's happened, being able to discuss it with the kingdom in a way that is easy to digest, that makes sense, and that's going to cause the least amount of stress and
There's a certain
and
amount
anxiety.
of professionalism that you have to keep with it, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, you talk about some real things. You talk about getting rid of people from our organization, possibly forever,
Right.
and other things like that. So it's tough. It's tough, especially because all of us have been around for a long time, and so if I end up having to drop a ban on someone, I may be dropping a ban on someone that I consider a good friend, that I consider a close friend.
And likely lose that friendship, too.
Yeah, and may lose that friendship over.
Well, I mean, you've that's actually happened to you.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, it has, and I still for the people that were involved with that, I still love them. They know that I still consider them good friends. I still consider them good people, but those situations come up when you're in office, and you are forced to make a decision, and it's tough.
Yep.
It's tough to be in, and I think people can understand on an intellectual level what's that's like, but you never really understand until you're sitting in that Discord meeting discussing what you now have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I fully expect to end my term with fewer friends than I started. And that's okay. Like, I don't care. I'm not here to be everybody's friend. I'm here to keep the game going and to keep the kingdom going and try to, do right by people during COVID. But
Right.
like that if you are going to be a monarch and your goal is to be everybody's buddy, you should reconsider. And that's not to say you should just not be a monarch, but know that it's not all fun and games, and it's not all
Kind of temper your expectations to some degree.
it's not all going to be holding cool events and getting to sit at the front table. It's also going to be a lot of background shit that you're like, why are people like this? I mean, yeah,
That's the truth.
yeah. It's like, why are you the way you are?
Yeah.
But yeah. So my goal currently, keep the game going.
That's I think all of the questions and stuff on.
That's
on
a
Lexi's
perfectly
notes,
dour
so.
note to end the podcast. Then.
Okay, so following tradition here. We have one more. I know that we're way over time, but we're going to end on one thing. We got to tell a funny story. I know that we told a couple on here. We got to tell a funny story. And so I'm going to take it a step farther here and say that this funny story needs to be one that involves the three of us.
Yep, I knew this was coming.
Oh man.
Last symposium we got into some fuckery.
We can't discuss any of that on camera.
Well, yeah, we can. We just got to be careful.
The
but I'm
statute
trying
of
to think-
limitation isn't up on a lot of
I think
that.
my favorite. It sucks because Lucas wasn't in the game again at the time. Was
that's
when we
fine.
went to Rakkus and we played the giant on the orc ball field or whatever it was they called it. Where
Yes. So the Teflon and I went to Rakkus, which is an event held by the Iron Mountains out in Colorado.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
it.
think Colorado.
Shout out to Promethea, by the way. They have one of the coolest monarchs I've ever talked to.
And so the person who was running the game at the time, Teflon is not so tall.
And then wasn't so dense.
Yeah, he wasn't as dense as a neutron star back then either. And I am very tall. I'm 6'4". And so we asked the person that was running this orc ball game or orc ball like game that we were playing if I could just put him on my shoulders as Master Blaster. And I took 2 shields and he took a
Polearm.
Was it like a 20-foot polearm?
No, it wasn't that big.
It was enormous.
It was like a 12-footer maybe.
The
10 foot. I don't know. I was young, so
Yeah,
it
so-
could have been a 6'1" but taller than me. So
But it was this huge polearm, and so we ran around the battlefield with me fighting double shield, and him fighting polearm as Master Blaster. And anytime we killed someone, we would go Master and Blaster.
Jesus.
And that was all fun and games until we remembered that we were in Colorado, where the air is not.
Yeah. Which one of you fainted first? Was it
Not-
Teflon because he had a higher elevation, or was it you because you were
So-
carrying Teflon?
Neither of us fainted, but we did end up.
We basically went from one end to the other and like, nope, we're not doing this
Yeah,
again.
we're done.
I thought about it. Fuck this.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we did end up ditching later that day, and because we
man.
just we could not fight. That wasn't an option. We were on a field with Sir Leaf, Sir Michael Hammer of God, Sir Thor. Guy. I don't remember all of the people.
Who did we stay with? It was Casca and
Yeah, I don't.
Cord.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I don't think he was necessarily at the time big fighter or whatever, but he was definitely good enough to
Yeah,
get, you know.
absolutely. And so we have to be out there fighting, and we're dog tired. Like, I mean, we're dragging our feet.
Leaf is
We're-
literally explaining to us elevation sickness
Yeah.
as we are experiencing it.
elevation sickness. Like it was kind of one of those subtle things, like you need to sit your ass down, and we're like, yeah, those symptoms sound horrible. But yeah,
we
no, that
got
was a really
so
good one.
delirious that one of our fighting strategies at one point was, all right, Flo, you swing low, and Jeff, you swing high. This sounds very reasonable.
And so I, being the tall guy doing the low
Yeah.
shot, and we thought this was so funny. We were giggling madly as we wandered across the ditch field, and I think this is what prompted Leaf to come over and say,
I think
and say,
so.
hey, you know, this is what altitude sickness is like. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, I can't think of. We don't have a.
I mean, like, the problem is like, usually one of me or Flo at the time, and now Lucas
Was
have been
on break.
involved in some sort of service type thing. So we
Yeah.
haven't really been together at an event, except like at night.
Yeah, and usually too, like not so much Flo and myself, but Teflon and I end up in the drift where we're thinking the
Lord.
same thing.
And say it same time. It's so bad.
It's weird, but like we'll make eye contact and then we've just decided we're going to put that person in a high chair. Like
Yeah.
some
No, I was
unknowing
there for that. That
bystander.
happened.
Yes, okay, some unknowing bystander walking into the feast hall and I look at the high chair, I look at Teflon, Teflon looks at the high chair, he looks at me, and then without saying a word, we get up and put the person in a high chair and then sit back down like nothing fucking happened. Like that kind of stuff is hard to relay, without being there.
Yeah. Well, this was a whole lot of fun. Thank you so much for being on.
Almost 2 hours of fun.
Oh man.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it'll be one of our longest ones.
Oh, do we split this up?
Oh,
Do we
so,
really do
No.
The other thing that's tradition, Lucas, Flo, what do you guys want to name your show?
Man, now I feel like one of the guests.
Oh no, is this what we do to our guests? This sucks.
We do. Okay,
So I want to point out one of the other things that was on the list that I didn't point out yet was who's interviewing who here?
oh no, that's an easy one. We're all interviewing
Each other. Yeah.
All right. What are we going to name this episode?
I still think Hammer Time is definitely the way to go.
Well, okay. I Googled millennial baby name generator.
Oh, perfect.
Let's
oh,
just-
no. Wu-Tang name generator.
Yes, Wu-Tang.
Oh, with Hammer Time, I was going to go something like "We Nailed It."
God damn it. Hold on. Let's give the Wu-Tang.
We nailed it. Is definitely should be the
Let's
name of
give
that
the
episode.
Wu-Tang generator one shot. Okay.
I mean, my name is Danger Small off the Wu-Tang generator, by the way.
All right. Enter the Wu-Tang. Vulgar mercenary. Is that yes, no?
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Vulgar mercenary?
Oh, Vulgar Mercenary sounds like the really cheesy name of a second season anime
does.
bad guy.
Okay, fine. So we'll call it Hammer Time because I think
'Cause
that
we nailed
fits.
it.
Yeah, and for because I guess we didn't explain the joke.
Yeah.
This is Flo is Sir Flopogin Thunderhammer. Teflon is Teflon Frosthammer, and I am Cabbage Tide Hammer. The theme being hammers.
Yeah, Stinkfoot could not be more disappointed in all of us.
I almost picked Stankhammer. I didn't pick it specifically because I thought Stinkfoot will think that I'm trying to ape his name.
Oh, Pat, I love you, but I'm not sure that Stinkfoot could chain that
Would've noticed.
together at this point.
Well, okay, so we'll call it Hammer Time. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Be sure to Subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify. Give this a like wherever you're at, if it has a like button. We'll see you next week. We've got a couple of guests lined up. We'll start teasing more on the social media pages very soon. Thanks for joining us.